How do hyperscalers make money? And how can their margins stay high when they're spending tens of billions of dollars on data centers and AI chips? At first glance, it doesn't seem logical. These companies are building massive facilities, buying enormous quantities of servers, GPUs, networking gear, land, cooling systems. It's capital intensive at a scale most industries never see. So how are margins still strong? The answer comes down to scale, recurring revenue, and operating leverage. Let's start with how they make money. Hyperscalers, companies like Amazon through AWS, Microsoft through Azure, and Google through Google Cloud, primarily sell cloud computing services. Businesses rent computing power, data storage, networking bandwidth, databases, AI processing, and software tools. Instead of buying their own servers, companies pay hyperscalers on a usage basis. This is often structured as infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, or subscription-based enterprise software layered on top. Customers pay monthly or based on consumption. That creates recurring revenue streams. Now here's the key. Once a hyperscaler builds a data center, the incremental cost of adding one more customer is relatively low compared to the upfront cost of building the facility. The fixed cost is enormous, but once that infrastructure is in place, each additional dollar of revenue flows through at a much higher margin. That's operating leverage. If a data center costs billions to build, but it serves thousands of enterprise customers simultaneously, the cost per customer drops dramatically. And because cloud contracts are often sticky, meaning businesses are deeply integrated into a specific cloud provider, customer churn tends to be relatively low. There's also economies of scale. Hyperscalers buy hardware in massive bulk. They negotiate power rates at industrial scale. They design their own chips and optimize cooling and networking in ways smaller competitors simply cannot. That efficiency gap protects margins. Another factor is pricing power. Once a company builds its systems inside a particular cloud environment, switching providers is expensive and complicated. That creates what's called high switching costs. High switching costs increase pricing resilience. Now, it's important to distinguish between capital expenditures and margins. When you hear about hyperscalers spending $40 billion, $50 billion, even $70 billion a year on infrastructure, that's capital investment, not operating loss. Those assets generate revenue over many years. On their income statements, their cloud divisions often show operating margins that are significantly higher than their retail or hardware divisions. For example, historically, Amazon's AWS segment has had far higher operating margins than its retail business. Microsoft's Azure contributes meaningfully to overall corporate margins. Cloud is often the most profitable segment inside these companies. So how can margins stay high despite massive spending? Because the spending builds long-lived infrastructure that generates recurring revenue at scale with high switching costs, strong customer retention, and relatively low incremental servicing costs per additional customer. In simple terms, hyperscalers spend enormous amounts upfront to build digital highways. And once those highways are built, millions of businesses pay tolls to use them every single day. That's how you can spend billions and still produce high-margin, cash-generating businesses.